If ever your life could be a true crime podcast episode, then this podcast is for you. We're about to embark on a roller coaster of emotions, insights, survival, and stories about escape. So buckle up and let the journey begin.
Good day, everybody, and welcome back into the Escape Pod. I'm Julie, here with Charity.
Hello.
We're so grateful for our listeners and people who engage with us, which is happening more and more, right?
Yeah.
Awesome possum. Well, before we get to the topic of this week, what are you escaping from? Anything in particular?
Well, yeah, I'm escaping some bad juju, evidently.
Ooh.
So a listener is telling me. You want to hear this?
Yeah.
It's pretty funny. So
Go for it.
I'm just going to read it. Okay, so our favorite transformation director, Chad, has this awesome aunt. I've met her a couple of times now. She's toured the campus. Like, she's just a riot. And got a message from her. It's to Charity and Julie, but I'm on her list.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Okay. So she says, enjoyed today's podcast, chuckled my way through it, except for this one little teeny tiny part. I told Chad about it, and he said I should go to you directly. For a big guy, he's kind of a sissy sometimes, but I love him. But this is specifically for you, Charity. You killed a spider? Lots of question marks. Do you know what bad juju that is? Not only did you smush a spider, but it sounds as if it was a rare and endangered spider. Charity, you're on my list. Have a good weekend, ladies.
Really? Yes. So if you all need to back up,
But
so
that
you get
spider
the
was the color of your
backstory.
dress right now.
Like orange.
Bright orange. I've seen something similar in Hawaii, but I've never seen anything like that here.
Right. I feel like it was not going to survive our climate.
It may not have, but and I even said on that one, I do try to relocate.
So does my husband.
relocator. I don't, whatever. But then I started thinking, okay, does bad juju apply to mosquitoes? Because if something is taking my blood, I'm going to smack it.
The only purpose for mosquitoes I've come up with in the grand scheme of life is that they're food for other things, like birds. That's the only reason to have mosquitoes.
Well, then they should eat plants,
Well, there you go.
but they don't.
I agree.
So anyway, I'm escaping bad juju. Sorry, Aunt Deb. But in the spirit of hopefully garnering some good juju, the stories I have for you later are about saving a spider that was the size of my hand.
You saved a spider the size of your
Well, I
hand?
may have had help, but it was my idea. I'll tell you all about it. What are you escaping this week?
Well, kind of along those lines, grasshoppers.
There's a lot of grasshoppers right now.
Can't fully express how much I hate them. I have...
Worse than bats and mice and birds?
It's close.
Okay.
Probably not to the extent of hating mice or bats. And birds are okay far away, just not close to me. But grasshoppers freak me out. I have a weird, irrational fear. I can even tell you the summer it stemmed from. And when I was in high school, and we had like a ton of them that summer, and they just creeped me out. And I realized how thick they can get, which is not so much in the hills where we live.
You can chocolate dip them and eat them.
You can chocolate dip
Well,
them.
I've never done it, but
I'm not doing it.
I've seen them packaged that way.
So Aunt Deb, if you love grasshoppers, I will apologize in advance. I went to open my car door last week and one just hopped right in onto my floorboard, and it was either kill it quickly or start the car on fire. Those were my options.
Wow.
Because I could not imagine being in the car with that thing in there.
Burn it down?
Burn it down.
Oh my.
I hate them
Julie,
so
you know
much.
we have a therapist upstairs.
She
You might need to take a
might be a good resource.
visit. Yeah.
It is kind of bizarre, but they're so weird. Creepy.
The creepiest though, so there's grasshoppers are one thing. So my thing with bugs that have those barbed legs is
Yes.
the black crickets. because
Same.
I had a bedroom
the
basement
same.
and they would get into my bed and I'd wake up and they're like, I didn't consciously kill it, but there'd be like cricket parts because I've rolled over. I've slept with the darn thing, you know. But the worst ones are those albino crickets. Julie,
I have the heebie-jeebies just
those
listening to you
suckers
talk
jump
about it.
like 7 feet in the air. They're smaller, but they're like almost clear. And they are the creepiest little things. And you can't catch them. So like there's no smushing them. But I mean, they are so fast and they jump
I've
so
never
high
seen one of those.
because they're quick.
I was staying at a family member's house once, and they have a great basement to sleep in. It's cool. It's dark. It's, whatever. And there was a cricket that got in there to the point that I had to sleep upstairs. Like I could not fall asleep with the cricket.
Because you could hear it?
Because
Or
I could
because
hear
you
it
could-
and
you knew
I
it
was
there?
weirded out.
Okay.
Yeah. Both reasons. It was so loud. And just when I thought, like, I'm going to get it, and I didn't get it. And then it's like, I can't even sleep down here. So I had to sleep on their couch upstairs. I couldn't handle it. They're so
It is
icky.
interesting. I mean, most bugs are not going to hurt you.
I know.
We were in Breckenridge a couple of weeks ago and sitting on a rooftop patio at a restaurant. And a couple tables over, I only know this because they started engaging with the table next to him over what happened. So she was a recent college grad, and she was like freaking out over, I don't even know if it was a fly or a bee or whatever, but she has a serious like bug thing.
Uh-huh.
And the mom's kind of laughing it off. And anyway, she was making such a scene that they ended up talking to the table across the aisle. And so I was kind of listening in because that's all you could hear.
Yeah.
But people do, even one of my kids as a little one, like I had one that would, be fascinated and want to watch and do all this stuff. And the other one like, ugh,
Yeah.
And you don't know where it comes from. Like it's pretty interesting with insects. I don't know if they're just so
I will say, though, when you
or-
say most bugs can't kill you, mosquitoes are actually one of the most
Mosquitoes are
dangerous things in the world because
flipping
they
cannot
spread
stand mosquitoes. Yeah.
disease
Yeah.
and bad diseases. So we're pretty fortunate where we live because they aren't as bad here as they are in a lot of
Don't tell
other
people
parts
that.
of the region.
Don't tell people that.
Sorry, but we do still have them.
We have
We are not sans mosquitoes.
no.
They're just not as thick as they can be in some places.
Yeah.
So tell me more about our topic today.
The spider deal. Okay, so I actually have two really interesting spider stories.
Okay.
I'll tell you the scarier one first,
Okay.
and then we'll end on the funnier one.
Thank you.
Okay.
She follows my format very well.
Well, I just,
Bad news first.
I want to keep you out of Rochelle's office as much as possible. So the first one, I was dating my now husband, and we used to do a lot of hiking.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were on actually the Sunday Gulch Trail, just named after our room over here.
Yeah.
And it was winter, so there's still a lot of snow, a lot of ice. Have you done that hike?
I don't think so.
Well, if I describe it to you, you'll remember if you did it.
Okay.
So Sylvan Lake is a man-made lake.
Uh-huh.
And Sunday Gulch is below the lake. And so you hike down behind the dam.
Okay, I have
and
done
you have to scale down rocks, like
Correct.
there's railings drilled into the rocks. And you go way down, and then you have to come way up. But what I like about it is you have all of the different types of scenery that the Black Hills has to offer in this one loop. And I don't know, it's like maybe 3 miles? I don't even remember.
Yeah, it's not a big hike.
No, it's not long. I got lost on that hike one time as a kid. Well, I wasn't lost. It was
Right.
It was only going to come out one place. But my parents had been fishing, and I took my little sister on a hike. And at, I don't know, 12 years old, I didn't have a concept of what 3 miles or whatever meant.
Right.
And so we started hiking and hiking. And when you don't know when the end is coming, it seems a lot longer.
Yeah.
Anyway, pretty soon it's dark. I know there's this way before cell phones. My parents have no idea where we're at.
Oh my gosh.
I think they actually cared. So they did seem a little upset by the time we came out. I don't know if it was because we inconvenienced them or because they actually thought we were abducted or something. But anyway, this hike also involved my younger sister. So my sister, my now husband, then boyfriend, and myself were on this hike. It was a gorgeous sunny day. I mean, our winter day is like when the sun is out, just, it's still warm enough to hike, but there's snow everywhere. It's very beautiful. And so we get down, and we were not as familiar with that hike as I am now. Now I've done that hike dozens of times. At this point, I'd done it maybe 2 or 3 times.
Okay.
Maybe less. At least maybe this was the second time.
Okay.
So we start on this hike, and it's a great day, hiking, having fun, having, good talk. I didn't do a lot with my sister growing up, so this was memorable in that way, it was kind of special. And we get down, so we're heading down towards the bottom of the ravine where you finally turn around and you start coming up the other way.
Okay.
So the lowest point.
Okay.
Where then if you keep going on that path, it goes back to some cabins, people that live back there.
Okay.
Okay, so we're coming down still on the descent, and the snow was so high, the snowpack was so high that there were places where you had to kind of crawl on top of the snow but under the trees.
Oh,
whereas if the snow were gone, you'd just be walking under the trees and the trees wouldn't be touching you, right?
Okay.
So that's how much snow there was. So we're kind of, going through, and I remember seeing a spider. Didn't think anything of it because it was kind of over here in my periphery.
Uh-huh.
Thought nothing of it. Finish the hike, get down to the bottom, start on the way up, and don't make it very far. And I'm super out of breath. I mean, I am oh, God, I gotta sit. And so I found a log, I sat down, and all of a sudden my sister goes, "Oh my God, Tim, look at her face." And so my hands go up to my face, and imagine my face swollen out even with my nose. So...
Oh my goodness.
I have a prominent nose. I mean, I'm, of Iberian and Middle Eastern or whatever descent. So my nose looks like that part of the world, and it sticks out quite a ways. It's thin and, whatever. But imagine my whole face being swollen even with my nose. That's what it was.
Gosh.
And I'm oh my gosh. But on top of that, I couldn't breathe. I was really struggling with breathing. At first, I just thought, I'm really out of shape. What's going on?
Right.
Oh my gosh. I did have my freshman 15 or whatever at that time. But it was crazy. And so us not being super familiar with the trail, do we keep going the way we're going? Do we go back the way we know?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how to answer that question, right? And so we start going back the way we came because we're we don't know how long it's going to take us to get done. We know how far we've hiked.
Yeah.
So that was the wrong decision, but we didn't know that at the time.
Okay.
And so we start walking, and pretty soon I can't breathe at all, and pretty soon I am passing out. My husband, my boyfriend, grabs me. He somehow has me kind of over his shoulders. I can't remember exactly how I was, but I do remember my arms were locked around his shoulders. And we get by this canyon, and the way the sun was hitting the canyon was so stunning. The rocks looked like a rainbow. It was gorgeous, and it was so beautiful. And I stopped breathing, and I thought that was it. And I was so at peace. I'm just okay, this is the last thing I'm going to see.
Oh my God.
It's very beautiful because I could not breathe, and I was starting to lose consciousness. So I don't remember anything else because I am out until he gets back up. Now we're at the top where those big rocks and the rails start, and there's the creek running through it.
Okay.
And I wake up to this ice cold winter creek water being thrown in my face. And so I'm passed out on the ground. I don't know how the hell he got me up those rocks.
Yeah,
but
adrenaline.
So he's thrown water in my face. It wakes me up. I come back to, and I sit up, and I'm soaked, and it's freezing outside. And then when I sat up, it was like a spigot turned on in my nose, and all of this fluid just started pouring out of my nose, just clear fluid.
Ew.
It was gross, but it was clear at least. But it just started flooding, and that swelling in my face and all this stuff started subsiding. And I'm well, I don't know what's happening. I mean, it was again, something out of just medical mystery.
So strange.
So anyway, I could at least walk. I still don't know how. I have no recollection from the bottom of the canyon to that point. I was just gone. And so we get back to the parking lot. We get in the car. We drive all the way back to Rapid City, get to the hospital, sat in the emergency room for 4 hours, and they never saw me. And I finally said, screw it. I feel fine. Got up and walked out. Never did get seen. So the only thing, I'm pretty sure it was a spider.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I had like a severe onset reaction. It was pretty extreme, but I survived. I just remember like, okay, I guess this is it. And I mean, my luck has run out. I mean, I've, escaped all kinds of things in my younger days of really risky behavior,
And going for a hike is what takes you out.
biker gangs and stupid stuff. But yeah, I'm like, and it's a spider. So, okay, I can die with that. That's okay.
My husband and I talk sometimes about the things that he sees people do and survive, and kind of crazy things or terrible ways of living. And he's like, they'll be fine. And you and I would step off the curb at the wrong time and whack, we're done.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, it just seems like Murphy's Law. But,
Right.
So
anyway, it has a happy ending.
Something gotcha.
Something got me.
Huh. That's fascinating. It's weird it didn't last very long, probably in the grand scheme of things.
Couple hours maybe total. Hour maybe.
Never heard of such a thing.
Yeah.
Bizarre.
And because the doctors were taking their sweet old time. No, I'm kidding. It didn't seem incredibly busy that day in the waiting room.
Yeah.
But I don't know what was going on behind the scenes. But yeah, I mean, I checked in, got triage, and waited and waited and waited, and finally said, peace out. I'm a college
Did you still
student.
get a bill?
I have things to do. I did not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, at least there's that.
Yeah.
I had an epidural with one of my kids, and by the time the baby was born, it didn't work anymore. Mm-hmm. And I remember that was a hard bill to get because I'm like, still felt the pain. All of it. Every single little bit. But here's the bill. Oh, well. The second one was much better. Second baby was much easier. Okay, that is not a funny story. That is a scary story. What's the funny one?
The funny one, hopefully, Auntie Deb, this will help me incur some good juju.
Okay, we're getting rid of the juju.
Well, hopefully I already had a bank of good juju because this happened when we lived in Minnesota. We had so like our house was on a hill, and the house abutted a wetland, and then between us and the wetland was so a wetland was between our house and then like a golf course. And we didn't live on a golf course. Like it was on the other side of this berm. There's like a, walking trail and stuff. Very wooded, very thick. A lot of bugs, a lot of birds, a lot of animals, all kinds of stuff back there. And our basement for the longest wasn't finished. So It was 3 stories, but the basement was not finished for many, many years. And we were getting ready to finish it. So couple weeks ahead of this, my daughter had come to tell me about a spider in the basement. And I said, well, describe it to me. And she described something that in my mind sounded like a daddy long legs.
Okay.
And I'm like, well, those are not going to hurt you. They're, nothing to be scared of. And she's like, okay, whatever. And so none of it was finished. So the stairs were wooden and open, and the basement floor is concrete, and and there's stuff. And the laundry equipment was down there. So one day I'm taking laundry down, and I dropped the basket on the floor. I already had some laundry down there. Mm-hmm. So I had my piles, and I went and grabbed another basket and came down, and I was like, sorting it. And this spider jumped out of the pile, on top of the pile, and stared me down. Julie, I freeze. We are staring at each other. I'm sorry, but this thing was totally conscious.
I have no doubt.
It had a whole personality. But when I say it was the size of my hand, you can ask my husband.
I believe,
this
they do
thing
exist.
Was so freaking huge that I'm staring at it like, you've got to be kidding me. Are you real? And, and it kind of, we move a little bit, like kind of square off and jump at each other. And I'm like, oh shit, this thing is totally real. And I'm like, okay, listen. So I'm trying to reason with it. I'm like, okay, we have contractors coming. They're going to finish this basement. And if they find you, they are going to kill you. So you have 2 choices. Let us catch you and relocate you, or you find a way out of my basement and out of my house, but that is going to be your fate. And I'm like, oh my God. And then I ran the hell up the stairs, and Tim had been sleeping because we would always work opposite shifts so that our daughter didn't have to be raised by somebody else. And not that that's a bad thing, but that was the right choice for our family. Yeah. So I go to wake him up, And, or was I? I think I did wake him up. Or maybe I waited a little while. That's what I did. I waited a little bit. I wasn't going to wake him up right away because he hadn't been sleeping very long.
But are you keeping your eye on the spider?
Well, wait.
Okay.
You trust
I'm
me.
ahead of the game.
Okay, yeah. So right at the top of the basement stairs is like a little half bathroom.
Okay.
Okay. I was in the bathroom and I look around. The door's open. I look around the corner and it's an old house. So like I'm trapped in there and I see these 2 or 3 black things come around the door frame, just poking around the door frame like this. And I'm stuck in this little space in a narrow doorway and I'm like, oh my God, that sucker came upstairs. It's in the doorway. I've never been so terrified of a spider. I was just like, it's going to jump, like, if it jumps on me, I don't know what I'm going to do. And so I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, I can do this. I can do this. I just have to run really fast and get out here. And that's when I ran. That's when I ran and I said, I can't wait anymore. I'm going to wake my husband up. So I go wake him up. I'm like, look, the spider is nuts up upstairs now and all this stuff. And so he wakes up. He comes downstairs to the main level. And okay, so top of the stairs, the basement stairs is this half bath. Against the exterior wall of this little bathroom, there was a little toy chest because the kids would play in this area with, their toys when they were little. Yeah. And so it was just a way to keep things tidy. And so he walks right over. He reaches his hand behind the toy chest. So the legs of this thing coming around the door jamb were about the level of the toy chest. And he just pulls the toy chest away. And it was a freaking Mardi Gras mask that the kids had been playing with.
Okay.
So it was black feathers that were creeping around the door frame. It wasn't the spider.
Okay.
So then he looks at me like,
you're nuts.
You are full of it. There is no spider. I'm like, I have a picture, and I pull my little flip phone up, and I show him a picture of the spider downstairs. And he's like, holy shit, that's a spider. I'm like, I did not make this thing up. I promise you.
You're like, we had a conversation.
Yes, we talked. We talked it out. And so he's like, all right, I'm going to catch the spider. Because I'm not catching the spider. I'm like, not going to do it. So he gets a glass bowl and a tile because we were getting ready to remodel the basement, or finish the basement. So it was easy to kind of, and so he goes downstairs, he can't find it. And then I think he said he whistled like, I can't whistle, but like, woo, woo,
like calling a dog.
Woo, woo. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it came out from under the washer. It literally came out and he's like, oh, I'm telling you this thing is conscious. Like
it speaks English.
It speaks English. And so he did. He scooped it up and then he brought it upstairs and we all stared at this spider that was the size of my face in the glass bowl. And I'm like, you believe me now? And then Sierra comes up.
She's like, that was it.
That's the spider I was telling you about. You told me it wasn't a big deal. She's like 8 or whatever. And I'm like, you did not describe the enormity of this spider in your however-year-old words.
Was it a wolf spider?
It had to have been.
Had to have been, right? So we have those here. And at my former place of employment on top of a hill, they would have wolf spiders. We would have them sometimes. Oof. Now, fortunately, I was never alone in a room with one and having to try and figure out what to do with it by myself.
Could you look at my hand?
They would take pictures sometimes and they'd be like, look at it. A lot of really times big. Yeah, it was on the outside of the building because it was a different facade than a lot of buildings have. And but people, we had a couple people who had pretty serious fears of spiders. And one in particular, I remember, she would have burned her car down. She would have. She got into her car one day and a spider, a little spider just came from the ceiling and she got out.
Tiny ones don't bother me at all.
Tiny ones don't bother me either. But she hopped out of that car and she had to come get somebody to take care of it. Because she's like, I couldn't drive my car knowing that the spider was sitting there or was starting to make its way down. I think they ended up finding it and it was okay, but there was no joking around with her. And sometimes people, to me, they never did this to her, to my knowledge, but if they killed it or if it was dead, because sometimes you'd find them, they were not alive.
Well, the ones trapped in your cars now are getting roasted alive because it's 100 degrees outside.
Depending on where they are found and whatever. And we had some pranksters who would leave the remnants in somebody's desk or near somebody. Super nice. Unfortunately, nobody did that to me, because even though I am not afraid of spiders the way I am afraid of mice and now, grasshoppers, but I don't love them. I just don't freak out the way I do at other things.
So what would you have done with my little buddy?
Oh, I might have burned the house down. I don't know. Okay. Maybe.
Exorcism, something? No, I'm kidding. So we did relocate him on T-Deb. He got to be free because he was so fat. There's no way he could make his way out. But I'm like, this spider had to have been eating mice because he was so big. Oh, yeah. I'm like, I don't know what else he would have gotten in my basement to get that big.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Anyway. And again, the woods.
You can see the hair on them.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. I know I still have that little flip phone somewhere. I wonder if I have a charger for it still. I mean, this picture is unreal. It's just like, Anyway, that was before it was easy to transfer your pictures to your next phone. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But yeah, it was huge.
Classic.
So I didn't do it myself, but I'm like, we have to relocate. Like, you can't kill it. It's conscious. It's like we were aware of each other. We had a conversation. So anyway, it was crazy.
Also, the squish involved in doing that.
Julie.
Sorry.
Hey, I tried to end it on a good, happy note. Here you go, bringing it down. Now I'm just going to have this popping noise in my head for the rest of the afternoon.
Well, on that note, let's take a break.
Good Lord.
We'll be right back. Hey, listeners, did you know we are podcasting for a cause here in the Escape Pod? Patron support benefits the One Heart campus in Rapid City, South Dakota, where we empower people to overcome crisis and achieve self-sustainability. To learn more, listen to our prologue episode all about One Heart or visit oneheartrc.org. We are back in the Escape Pod. Thank you all for sticking with us. We escaped stories of creepy crawlies. Kind of. Well, one could have ended badly, but...
Well, kind of, but then we just went to the break and we just kept talking about bugs. Looking
and you
at
said
pictures.
You have another story about
I was telling Julie that I have these little itty-bitty, they're so tiny, little ants that seasonally will start coming in my house, and then I have to draw them out, and it's the whole thing. Like, let's put the food outside, and then they'll go outside, right?
Okay.
And it's also interesting as I'm thinking about ants, because I have a very traumatic event from my childhood, probably second grade, involving fire ants in Louisiana. And I'll tell you about that in a minute, but it's like, yet I see ants and I'm not afraid of them. It's just so interesting how the mind works and how we can be horrified of something that was a traumatic event as a child and carry that all the way through our lives, or we can't. And I mean, I understand how it works. I've taught people how it works with, where your brain is, which hemisphere of the brain at the time of the thing, and how you code it on, blah, 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 blah. But anyway, this event was so horrific, and it lasted for weeks. So it was recess. I'm in Alexandria, Louisiana, and second grade. I don't remember the name of the school. We're at recess. I have a dress on. And there's this big tree kind of at the edge of the playground. I go and sit under the tree. I think I was a loner kid at that time. I might have been newer to the school or something. So I came in with a crash, that's for sure. But I go sit under the tree and just hang out by myself. And pretty soon I'm burning inside my dress, inside my underwear, between my legs, and I'm like, I freak out. I don't know what to do. And of course, I'm not going to throw my dress up on the playground. So in the bathroom, could not have been the farther away from where I was at on the playground. So anyway, I ran and I run, and I'm screaming. And so a teacher naturally, thankfully, follows me into the bathroom, and I'm pulling up my dress. And yeah, fire ants, army ants had gone into my panties and all inside up the bodice of my dress. So I was bit everywhere.
Ooh.
by those little bastards. So
That's horrible.
but yet I see them today and I don't go, I just don't. It's like, whatever, it happened.
Maybe if you lived in Louisiana still, though, you'd be like, ah.
I mean, I still lived there for 3 years, so
Okay.
yeah. Anyway,
That is weird.
Yeah. So I hope killing ants is not bad juju because those little
That has
suckers,
happened.
they attacked first.
You were defending yourself.
I was defending myself.
My partial fear of grasshoppers is because I had a grasshopper get into my shirt in high school. We were out at a football game. It was during the day, not in the evening. And I already was like freaked out by them because there were so many that summer and it felt like they were everywhere and they just weirded me out. And then I could feel something in my shirt. And I was like, it can't be.
How big was it?
I mean, it was big. But my friend, thankfully, my best friend, still my best friend today, and she kind of knew my fear. And I said, can you look under my shirt? Because it was like on my back. And I was like, can you look and see? And she was like, hold on. And she just very quickly snagged it and got it out.
Snag, yeah.
Uh-huh. And then she told me what it was. She didn't tell me when it was there.
What would you have done? Like stop, dropped, and rolled or
Probably.
something?
I mean, well,
Set
no,
your
because
shirt
I
on
didn't want to
fire?
hear the crunch, probably. Yeah, set
Burn my
myself on
shirt!
fire.
Burn my shirt!
No, but so that stuck with me. Whatever state my mind was in, they weirded me out. So
Well, okay, so no more bugs for the day.
no more
at least.
bugs. Where are you escaping to this week?
Well, this week, 2 things. One, my college graduate son is coming home. So he's been off in Minnesota and different places doing his thing, and he's going to come see us. My guess is before he has to get a real job and actually support himself since he didn't go straight into grad school, which is fine. So he's going to be home for a couple of weeks. I'm super excited about that. And then the other thing, did we talk about like people visiting from beyond the grave
I don't think so.
on this show?
If we have, I have forgotten it.
So one of my favorite people in the whole world ever, she's probably right up there with my grandma Sonia,
Okay.
passed away, as you know, in earlier this spring in April. And her name was Bev Warren. She was a Lakota woman who grew up right here in our backyard through the worst of racism and Native white relations and all this stuff, and went to boarding school, like had that whole experience.
Yep.
And she was such a good teacher and mentor and healer, would have a way of using these painful stories in her history to build bridges instead of create further divide.
Right.
And she was just incredible. And anyway, so we've had them on order for quite a while, but we had some placards made to dedicate our whole cultural site, which has an inipi, which is a traditional sweat lodge, and a ceremony house. And we're going to dedicate all of that in her honor. So Friday we're going to have a nice ceremony. And what's really cool about it, and for me personally, is that August 2nd has always been a really hard kind of holiday, because our holiday, I guess, what do you call it? Recurring day of the year, because that's the day my husband got shot.
Anniversary.
Anniversary, thank you. And so we're doing it on August 2nd to give it a new and better meaning to someone that I really loved. So that's what we're escaping to later this week.
Well, she was incredible. I didn't know her as well as you did, but I did know her. But
you still loved her. I mean, you could not.
Well, it was interesting, too, because, her eyes reminded me of my grandma. There was something about like the way they both aged.
I can still hear her laugh. She was so fun.
So sometimes, and they were completely different women. For one thing, my grandma was super short and Bev was fairly tall.
Very tall, yeah.
So they didn't really look alike, but there was something about the way they looked at you and the way their eyes were that I she, even though she was not my grandma, she always kind of had that grandma sense to her. And she was a grandma to lots of people and a mentor to even more than that. So, yeah, she's incredible.
Some of us are still trying to find finding our way, but like, it's different. Some of us still talk, that we're mentees of hers, like, what do we do?
Yeah.
Who do we talk to now?
Who do
we get that sage advice from now?
Yeah.
And I can just hear her saying, you already know. You already know. Oh,
well,
she's one of a kind.
I am a believer that those spirits still have an influence over us and that they're still praying for us and wanting good things for us. And I don't.
Well, she used to tell me a story quite a lot. As you know and witnessed, I, in particular, took a lot of beatings from the community in trying to get this project launched called One Heart, not the podcast. And podcast, that was easy. One Heart, not so much.
We bought some microphones and
said, roll up our sleeves, let's go. But she would tell me these stories about, like in her belief system, how the ancestors would support people who are still on this plane. And she would paint these pictures and not physical pictures, but like, mental imagery of people standing behind me.
Yeah.
And she would say, here's what I've always believed, and I can feel this, and now they're standing behind you, Charity. And I'm like, oh my God, it's a lot of pressure. But anyway, there was this really cool, the weekend, the day after her funeral, I had the day before her funeral thrown a grant away because it was making me mad. And I'm just like, forget it. We're getting told no all the time anyway. I'm just going to throw this away. There's no point being just, thrown a fit. Something made me pull it out. So I took it home. And then after the day after her funeral, I'm sitting in my office. I have 3 grant applications. So this is a Saturday. And I pull out the one I had thrown away, not the 2 that I knew I needed to work on. I pulled out that one. And it was just this moment. My office was perfectly sunny, which is my medicine, sunshine. Sitting there, the words just start coming, and I start smelling sage kind of off in the distance. I have been an avid sage user for decades. I was not burning any that day, and I kept smelling it, and I'm aware of it, but I'm not losing my focus on the words that are flowing through my fingertips onto the digital paper, right? So I don't let it interrupt me, if that makes sense, but I'm aware of it. And it was like very peaceful feeling. Well, my husband, also workaholic, was working the weekend. He comes home and he was kind of in and out. He comes back about 20 minutes later. I am now finally lighting sage. And he goes, have you been burning this all morning? I said, no. He goes, I've been smelling it for about the last 20 minutes.
Oh.
And I just went, hi, Bev. I know it was her. I could feel it. So I was like, okay. So my big hopes are that is the grant that is going to hit.
I hope so.
That we're going to get recognized for our work through that grant because it was inspired by her.
Well, we haven't been told no yet, so there's still hope. Yeah.
Well, I think we won't hear until the first stage until like October, and then it's a multi-stage type of deal. But
it was a big one.
But yeah, last week, what did we add up? $1.25 million of rejections. It's like, no, you're not doing good work. It's okay. You can just figure it out.
Yeah,
grow a money tree in the backyard because we're not going to help you. I'm like, okay, that's awesome.
If I could do that. I will say, I've said this many times, if I could bottle my children's energy and sell it, we'd be billionaires.
Yeah.
I have so much energy.
I know.
I get home at the end of the day and I'm like, you should do circles around the house for 10 minutes. Like, you got to burn some of that energy off.
I've witnessed, especially your little one.
Yeah. If all we did was bottle his energy, we would be
It's like how you tap a tree for that syrup, molasses, whatever. Like,
why not? Let's give it a shot.
He's something else.
He's great, but it's funny. Speaking of burning energy, my escape this week, which by the time people probably hear this podcast, it will be over. But I love the Olympics. I love the Olympics. And so I, at some point every day, escape into the sporting world. And even if it's not sports I know a lot about, I will usually still have it on just to like check in and see what's going on. But I just love the stories. And, you know, one case the other night, they were talking about a kid. I can call him a kid because he's like 25, which means technically I would have been a young mother, but I could be his mother. And he said something about like, I've worked all these years and I get 45 seconds. And I just think like, oh my gosh. And even my boys said, can you imagine how nervous he must be? And I said, but you know what you have to remember is he's done it 1,000 times. Like he's done this discipline 1,000 times or more. And I bet that's what he's remembering right now. Like this isn't the first time he's done it. And they were like, yeah, that's true. And so I just think there's a lot of like life lessons in those moments. And it's really cool because we did get to go to the Olympic swim trials. And so to see those Olympians, like we saw them a month ago, you know, in person swimming and competing. And so it's really cool to follow. I say every 4 years, other people who aren't swimmers actually care about swimming, but only once every 4 years. And I just love it. So that's where I'll escape to, and recognizing that they're burning more energy in that like minute or two race than I've probably burned in a month, but it's okay. It's awesome. I love it.
Oh, it's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
I don't seek it out. If it's on, I do get sucked in, but I won't go because I'm not a TV watcher.
Yeah.
So I don't just have that natural tendency to go turn it on and watch something.
Yeah.
But it is pretty impressive.
Well, I am not the TV watcher that I used to be, but I will set alarms depending on what's going on.
Oh, really?
Yes. I'll be like, ooh,
is
20
it all
minutes.
swimming that is your
I
thing?
try to catch everything swimming. And then if there's other stuff on, a lot of times, like, I won't just sit there and watch, but sometimes it depends what it is. Like I got beach volleyball the other night. I was like, ooh, I'm kind of sucked into beach volleyball. I guess I was during the day. On the weekend, I could actually watch during the day. But yeah, I don't know.
I'm always
I think
just
it's fun.
looking at like beach volleyball or things like that. Like, what kind of lifestyle do you have to have a physique like that? Like,
I mean,
are you working out 15 hours a day?
Well, I will tell you when I was in college and I was just a walk-on swimmer, it was 15 to 20 hours a week. So it was, you know, 3 hours a day. Mm-hmm.
Out.
And I was a full-time student.
3 hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. And usually 6 days a week. So it would usually be 18 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm good.
I mean, you do look really good when you do that.
I'm sure you do.
You can also eat a lot. I can't anymore. I'm like, oh, remember those days? What I always say about those days is like selfies came along 15 years too late. I'm like, where were the selfies when I liked pictures of myself? Yeah. That would have been way more fun. Now I hardly ever take selfies. We've discussed this. All right. That's going to do it for us this week. Do you want to tell people where they can find us, all the ways?
You can find us, escapepod.live, and see all of the different episodes that have been released since February. You can check us out on our socials and link out from the website. You can reach out to us at justbecaus@escapepod.live. Or if you have a story that you want to share with us of escape, maybe you escaped a spider the size of your head. Send those in to escapeartist@escapepod.live.
Maybe you escaped an even more dangerous creepy crawly thing. Let us know. We are closing the hatch on this episode of the Escape Pod. Remember, trauma may be inevitable. How you grapple with it is optional.
So remember to stay resilient
and keep laughing.